Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're tackling one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes completely maddening puzzles of the English language. If you've ever felt like English vocabulary is just a constantly moving target, well, you're in exactly the right place. We are going to decode a single, incredibly common word that somehow manages to twist and turn its way through hundreds of different conversational scenarios. So I want to pose this question directly to you right off the bat. How many ways can you actually use the word take? I mean, it's just 4 letters, right? T-A-K-E, but it is notoriously frustrating. Because in English, you can grab this simple base verb, tack a tiny preposition onto the end of it, and boom, you've completely changed its meaning. No wonder it trips up so many learners. Okay, let's dive into this, because the sheer variety here is wild. Think about it. What on earth does dismantling a clock have in common with suddenly leaving a Christmas party? Or doing a bit of basic math, like subtracting 11 from 33? Or, for that matter, deciding you're going to start swimming regularly? Well, in English, every single one of these totally unrelated, chaotic scenarios relies on the exact same base verb, take. To actually make sense of all this, we're anchoring today's explainer on some brilliant textbook material, specifically Chapter 12 of English Phrasal Verbs in Use. Because rather than just staring at some massive, overwhelming dictionary list of phrasal verbs, we're going to use the structure outlined in this chapter to group all this chaos into neat, logical, and highly memorable mental boxes. We're kicking things off with our first major grouping, taking it physically. This is where things are literal. We're talking about objects or people actually moving, separating, or physically changing location. The text gives us some awesome real-world characters to help visualize this. First up, we've got Freddie. Freddie loves taking clocks apart. He physically separates them into different pieces, though the text does humorously point out he never quite manages to put them back together. Then think about returning items. If you borrow books from the college library, or maybe buy trousers that end up being way too small, you physically take them back to the place you got them. And what about people? Imagine you're at a super crowded Christmas party, and your boss wants to give you a promotion privately. They're going to take you aside, physically separating you from the rest of the group. And finally, if you suddenly leave that very same party without telling anyone where you're going, just like a character named Rose does in our source text, you take off. All physical, all literal movement. Now, what's really fascinating here is the conceptual bridge we can build. Check out how we can use the exact same phrasal verb, take back, in 2 entirely different universes. On one side, we have the physical, returning trousers to the shop, carrying the pants in your hands and handing them to the cashier. But on the other side, we have the abstract. Let's say you called someone lazy, and then you realize, hey, I was wrong. You say, I take it back. You aren't physically grabbing words out of thin air, right? You're mentally withdrawing an idea. It's the exact same verb, but we've completely shifted dimensions. And that perfectly introduces our second category from the text, the abstract meanings. We are officially leaving the physical world of breaking clocks and returning trousers behind. Now we're dealing entirely with concepts, mathematics, and mental states. For instance, look at take up. The text mentions a son who's recently taken up collecting coins as a hobby. He's starting a totally new activity. Or consider take in. The source material gives a painfully relatable example for this one. Someone shows you a photo of their house, but you're just so incredibly exhausted that you simply don't take it in. You're looking right at the picture, sure, but your brain just isn't processing the details. It's a purely mental action. This abstract category covers math too. Take a simple equation. In plain conversational English, we wouldn't always use the formal word subtract. We'd just say, if you take 11 away from 33, you're left with 22. Taking away is the abstract act of subtraction. And keeping that energetic math theme going, let's step into a retail store. Say you find a damaged item you want to buy. The shop assistant might take off 10% from the total price. Notice how earlier take off meant Rose physically running away from a party? But here, it means mentally subtracting an amount from a grand total. Context is literally everything. Speaking of context, we're moving on to Lucy's journey. Isolated definitions are great and all, but seeing them in a continuous story is so much better for retention. And this brilliantly illustrates how native speakers actually string these idioms together in real life. Let's walk through Lucy's swimming journey, step by step, straight from section C of the text. Step 1. Lucy has taken out a year's membership at a local sports club. That means she's officially registered and subscribed. Step 2. She's taken to going to the swimming pool every lunch hour, meaning she started doing this as a frequent, regular habit. Step 3. She is so taken up with her swimming that she's incredibly busy. It's practically consuming all her free time. And finally, step 4. The exercise certainly takes it out of her, which simply means it leaves her feeling absolutely exhausted in the evenings. That's 4 different steps, 4 entirely different uses of take, all seamlessly woven into one logical sequence. But let's briefly pause the timeline right there for one more for Lucy. Because tucked right inside Lucy's story is one more crucial, highly conversational phrase we absolutely have to highlight. Lucy is so fiercely dedicated to her new swimming routine that, as the text notes, she won't even let a friend buy her lunch in the best restaurant in town. The phrase used is that she wouldn't even take me up on my offer. To take someone up on something simply means to accept their offer. I mean, poor Lucy is so focused on getting her laps in at the pool that she's turning down free, top-tier food. No way. So, the crucial point is, how do you actually remember all of this without losing your mind? Let's talk about the master study tip. The textbook provides a dedicated tip box, and the strategy is simple but incredibly effective. First, do exactly what we did today. Group the meanings logically. Don't just make some endless alphabetical list. Separate them into physical actions, abstract concepts, and other narrative senses. Second, realize that take isn't the only culprit here. The text points out you should be applying this exact same grouping method to other wildly complex everyday verbs like get and make. And finally, the most actionable step of all, keep a dedicated vocabulary notebook. I want to read the final quote from the source text directly to you because, honestly, it is the golden rule of language learning. Try to record an example sentence in your vocabulary notebook to help you remember them. Notice, it doesn't just say write down the word and the definition. It specifically says write down an example sentence. Because just like we saw with Freddie's clocks, Rose's party, and Lucy's swimming journey, full sentences provide the context your brain desperately needs to anchor these abstract concepts into your long-term memory. Which brings us to the end of today's explainer and leaves you with an immediate challenge. Looking back at everything we've covered, from physically taking things apart to mentally taking things in, which new phrasal verb will you take up and record in a full sentence in your notebook right now? Don't let this knowledge just take off. Grab a pen, pick your favorite example, and lock it in.